the aim is to give you a crash course. Bear with me, it's a very a dry subject, the world of local government grants, but I'm here to help. And have no fear. So we're in Suffolk, we're lucky to have a Warm Homes Healthy People. It's a single point of contact. We've spoke about the challenges, the problems. I think Warm Homes Healthy People can help link you with some of the solutions, some of the funding to help insulate those surfaces, keep them warm, stop water condensing and reducing damp and mould, as well as improving the heating of the property as well. So I am public health funded. This is a public health initiative to reduce excess winter deaths in Suffolk. In Suffolk, we have between 300 to 500 excess winter deaths a year. The challenge for the health and social care system is statistically for every death, there are 7 hospital admissions, and that's something we obviously want to avoid at a time when the NHS is under such pressure. The National Institute of Clinical Health and Care Excellence, NICE, have recommended that each county has a single point of contact for low-income, fuel-poor people. So Suffolk is above, ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. I think we're doing better than Norfolk and Essex, but I guess I would say that, wouldn't I? Okay, an apology to start with. There's going to be a lot of acronyms. As I said, it's quite dry, but the upshot of all of this is you're going to get some funding to help improve your properties, and it has a massive impact on health and well-being, so I think we can get excited about that. So here we go with the acronyms. So I'm going to talk about a grant from the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. That's our main grant at the moment. That's an £8 million fund over 2 years. I'm going to talk about the Energy Company Obligation, ECO4. I'm going to talk about the Great British Insulation Scheme, or the Great British Bake Off, as some of our team like to call it, and other support that Warm Homes Healthy People can provide. It's important to remember that Warm Homes isn't just 1 or 2 funds. We are a plethora of support, from loan heaters all the way through to tens of thousands of pounds of grant funding, financial aid. So let's dive in. Okay, so this is the grant I wanted to mention first because it's our biggest fund. As I mentioned, it's £8 million over the next 2 years. The biggest filter for our team is whether a property is on or off gas. That forms the first question the admin team asks. Are they on or off gas? And I should explain in my world what on and off gas means, because it doesn't mean whether you're literally on or off the gas grid. It's whether you use gas as your primary source of heating. So you could be in the middle of Ipswich in an urban area. There could be a row of terrace houses, and there could be one property which doesn't use gas as their primary source of heating, and they would be eligible for this fund from a gas perspective. So I'm talking about properties which are electrically heated, solid fuel, wood, coal. Maybe they've got very old gas fires which aren't used anymore. Maybe they're condemned. Maybe they have no heating whatsoever, and that's more common than you would think. So that's the first thing to remember. This is for properties where gas is not the primary source of heating. They might have a gas cooker. They might have gas for the hot water, but gas isn't the primary source for heating. There's an EPC, an energy performance stipulation as well. It has to be D or below. Very recently, in the past 2 weeks, the financial criteria for the tenant, and this is all based on the tenant of the property, increased from 31,000 to 36,000 gross. And it's important to remember that's gross household income. It's not net, it's not just the income of the applicant, it's gross household income. That confuses a lot of people. And I should say that there's so many grants you often get confused as well, and it doesn't help when Des changed the goalposts midway through the grant. But anyway, I'm not going to go down that road. Interesting thing with HUG and other grants is health alone is a route to eligibility. So this kind of shows the emphasis that we want to help the most vulnerable increase their energy performance and improve their health. So you might have an income of 50,000 gross, 60,000 and above, but if the person's deemed vulnerable by the NHS, if the cold is going to exacerbate their long-term health conditions, we want to support that household to reduce pressure on the system and increase their health and well-being. How does the tenure split work with HUG? Owner-occupiers are easier. It's fully funded within the criteria and the terms, but there's no contribution required from the tenant. There's no payback period for owner-occupiers. For those privately renting, the landlord has to pay a third of the cost of the works. To give you an idea, the average grant for the HUG fund is believed to be around £18,000, which means landlords will have to contribute £6,000 approximately. The other big thing to remember is for landlords, if you have 4 or more properties, your tenants can't access, or you can't access, the HUG fund. It's designed for landlords with smaller portfolios. There are other grants that I'll mention later which might be more relevant. The other thing to remember is, this is where the devil's in the detail, if you live with someone or your partner has properties, that's included as well. So if you have 2 properties and your partner has 2, then you can't access the HUG fund. What can it help with? Air source heat pumps, solar panels, cavity wall insulation, solid wall insulation. We have a dedicated web page, and there's a communications kit as well for anyone who wants to promote the HUG fund. It has posters, social media ads, etc., etc. So that's HUG. That's the main push at the moment from central government. We realise and appreciate there's a gap for on-gas funding, but all I can do is deliver what's available. Okay, next on to Eco4. So this might be something that's more relevant for landlords who have a larger portfolio. And I'm happy to see someone from IHI here because we get involved with Eco, we sign off the Eco declarations. We have a statement of intent for Suffolk to show how we'd like to deliver Eco in Suffolk in a bespoke way which meets the needs of our residents. But the installers know the calculations, they know how much funding each measure can attract. So Eco is all about funding to increase EPC, it's all about going through the bands, as IHI always remind me. It's not dependent on gas, so it's for on-gas and off-gas properties. And typically, because we need to move through the EPC, the energy performance bands, we needed heating and an insulation intervention. Normally, no landlord contribution is required, but again, it depends on the measure, it depends what's needed, depends how big the property is, depends on the archetype of the property as well. And as I've already mentioned, funding calculations are complex and best looked at by an Eco installer. And I believe there will be an installer here for you to have a chat with afterwards, if that will be helpful. As I mentioned before, we have a statement of intent which is published online. This shows how we're going to deliver Eco in Suffolk. The eligibility criteria is on there as well. At the moment, our statement of intent is in line with the old HUG guidance, which is 31,000 gross household income. I would imagine that we would increase that, or look to increase that to 36,000 to be in line with the new HUG guidance. And again, with Eco4, health is a route to eligibility. So again, your income could be higher, but if your physio, your OT, your GP, your doctor says, hang on, you've got COPD, you've got mental health condition, which we know is affected by cold home, I'm going to write you a doctor's letter, and that will make you eligible for that insulation, for that heating intervention that you need to stay warmer and healthier. Eco can help with fossil fuel heating systems. I didn't mention, but the Home Upgrade Grant, because it's from DESNZ, the Department for Energy and Security and Net Zero, they don't want to install any fossil fuel systems. The only systems HUG will help you with are renewables, your air source heat pumps. With Eco4, fossil fuels are still available. And your insulation, your loft and wall insulation, and your room and roof insulation. The next fund, the Great British Insulation Scheme, is quite simple. It's single insulation measures for properties. Now, this is where it gets confusing because you can combine these funds. So when a property comes to us and is being referred, we have to look at the property, look at the gas status, look at the tenant, look at what they need, look at the funding that's available, and kind of work out, okay, I think they need to go to HUG or Eco or GBIS. Or connected for warmth. And again, we struggle sometimes to keep up with the changes. I don't know how the public is expected to. Come to us, we will filter for you, and when you come into us, we will direct you and point you in the direction of the right funds. You know, we're a bloodhound for money. We know where the grants are, we know where the support is. And I should add that we don't just do grants like this, we add on other interventions, we do smoke alarms, onward referrals, befriending, it just goes on and on. We make every contact count. We don't just treat the fabric of the house, we support the person as well. That's my little soapbox warm homes spiel done. So GBIS, single insulation measures. 2 routes to eligibility. There's a low-income group, so those who receive the usual suspects of means-tested benefits, the universal credits, and your older benefits. And the general group is households with an energy efficiency performance of D to G, or D to E for private rented. And your council tax band is also taken into consideration as well. And again, I can't give you an exact outlook on if a contribution is required. It really depends on what you need. And that's the other thing I'll say. There's no one size fits all. It's very much done on a case-by-case basis. It depends on your property and what it needs, how big it is. There's so many things to consider. We'd need to survey you at home to understand the costs. And on to other support that Warm Homes provides. So I've touched on that earlier. It's not just the bigger grants. I think the biggest offer to everyone in Suffolk who's low income and has questions or is unsure about their property, we have the opportunity to do a free home survey at home. So for anyone in here who's an owner-occupier or a tenant, or maybe you're a landlord that's got someone who's struggling with their property, it's cold, there's damp, they're not sure how much insulation is in their loft, they'd like to get their walls insulated, maybe their heating system needs upgrading. We make no promises because that's difficult to do. We try and manage expectations really aggressively because these things take time, and in our world we need to get this stuff started now to fix the roof while the sun is shining, even though the sun isn't really shining at the moment. But we need to get it done in preparation for winter, and it can take months. It's not a quick fix. So we've got trained energy surveyors who can visit people at home and give them face-to-face advice, pick up on hazards around the home. They could pick up there's damp and mould, but equally they could pick up there's other hazards in the home, and we can refer those to the appropriate departments as well. All of our energy surveyors are trained to give advice and support in the home, such as switching energy supplier, maximising income and reducing their energy costs. We have loan heaters. I work closely with Ipswich and West Suffolk Hospital. You'll be surprised the amount of times someone can't be discharged because their home has no heat. I buy a 50 quid heater from Amazon or Argos, and that £50 heater frees up a hospital bed, which is worth its weight in gold. We also offer free draft proofing as well for low-income households, so your chimney blooms, your chimney sheet, your window foam, letterbox covers, your loft hatch pillows, weird and wonderful things. It's all boring stuff, but it has a significant impact on health and well-being. And I've touched on the income maximisation. We work with the CAB, or the CA as it is now, working on debt relief. There are social tariffs for broadband and water that people don't often know about, and we can offer fuel payments to get people access to the heat they need. And these are the details. This is probably the picture you want to take. It's the phone number, the email for our Warm Homes Healthy People team, and our warmhomessuffolk.org to get some more information. As I mentioned, I appreciate that's very whistle-stop. I'll be around, but hopefully I've mentioned a few grants which will spark your imagination and let you know there is support available. Thank you.